Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this session of preparing for IVF. Thank you. I see somebody's just joined now, and I'm going to be on with Isabelle Obert today from the clinic, Zita West Clinic, and we're going to be talking about preparation for IVF and nutrition. And I have got so many questions. We've got a lot to get through. I hope you enjoyed last night's session on preparation. And then tomorrow, hi Isabel.
Hi.
Tomorrow we have got acupuncture with Liu. How are you, Isabel?
I'm very well, thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to get myself in the picture.
Oh, how's it been? Have you been doing lots of consultations?
Yeah, not bad. Quite busy,
Yeah.
actually. Quite busy. Everybody's sort of hunkering down, preparing for a winter IVF.
Yes. I mean, it's good to do this week because a lot of women now are planning ahead for January,
Yeah.
February to do IVF. So it's looking at everything that they can do to help them. So last night I did a session on everything. And so then today it's going to be nutrition, tomorrow acupuncture, and then we've got to get motivated, trying to exercise, do all these things, and your body just doesn't really feel like doing it, does it? I mean, it's it's 5 o'clock now and it's just dark from around 3, isn't it?
It's like midnight, and you're right. It's such a totally different feel to the summer, isn't it? And your body craves different stuff for sure.
Yeah. So I'm going to go on to some of the questions now, and we can talk. So when you're at the clinic, how do you prepare women? What are the sort of common questions that they ask in the lead up to IVF and what they need to do?
Well, obviously the first thing is, what can we do anything to improve egg quality or sperm quality? And of course the answer is yes. We think that we can't give anybody a guarantee, but it really, and time and again, Zita, we see it, that people have improved results. I spoke to somebody literally last week whose IVF results, I mean, the eggs stroke embryos, including blastocysts that she had, she said, I have never had this before. And it makes such a huge amount of difference because, of course, what you put in your body is what your body can get out. IVF, the medication is only some of it. The medication is the catalyst, is basically the stimulation for your ovaries to wake up and smell the coffee, if you like. But whilst they're doing that, you need to feed them properly. If you don't feed the eggs properly, they can't mature. So it makes a huge amount of difference. So it's really getting into preparation, from a nutritional point of view, without, and I know we talk about this all the time, without being too hard on oneself all the time.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Well, because I get increasingly cranky as I get older in terms of my frustration that you will sort of go and you'll say I'm doing nutrition, and to be told there's no evidence to support nutrition, and it won't make any difference. And that's what drives me mad, because I know that there is, and we know that there is. We see it.
Well, there has to be. I mean, I know it's such an old cliche, but you are what you eat. You can't possibly get gold, out of, pebbles. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you've got to eat good food in order to get good stuff out. I mean, everybody knows that if you eat healthily, you can reduce your risk of certain cancers, and you can lower blood pressure, and you keep your cholesterol down. You can do all these wonderful things. If you've got acne, you can do something about that. If your hair's very dry, you can do something about that. So why wouldn't you be able to do something about your eggs and your sperm? I mean, what's different? There's still cells in the body that require nurturing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But some of the questions that are coming through are about energy levels, about cravings and things like that. So we'll touch on that. But I'll start with some of the questions if you're okay with that. Great. Okay. So, what is your view on protein shakes for men with DNA fragmentation issues, motility, volume, and shape, all good? Encouraging my husband to eat the rainbow. Good luck with that. However, trends tend to be about protein shakes for breakfast. What are your thoughts for men? We use protein shakes a lot, don't we, at the clinic?
We do. We use them for women going through IVF. I mean, look, IVF is not a natural process, let's be honest. We all know that. And therefore, I tend to look at nutrition as a bit exaggerated. You know, in a normal life, why would you need protein shakes when you could get all your nutrients from proper food? IVF is slightly different. So for a female, we definitely use protein shakes. For males, I mean, their protein requirements aren't quite as high as a female, but my recommendation wouldn't be soya or pea protein because of the potential contraceptive issues, if you like, that are, you know, maybe unknown, but we work on the what ifs. But actually, whey protein is a very good source of an antioxidant called glutathione, and glutathione is a really important antioxidant for both sperm and egg quality. And I would rather a guy had a protein shake maybe for breakfast based on whey protein, but with maybe some nuts and seeds and some berries and stuff in there, than no breakfast at all, or you know, a sausage bat.
I agree.
I think it can have its place, and I do recommend it sometimes, because although is it necessary, it may not be pure grass-fed, hormone-free. What we don't want is things with lots of bodybuilding stuff with lots of additives, loads of creatinine and stuff like that. There may be potential issues, by the way. This is not for bodybuilding. This is just for pure, good quality protein.
Great. Okay, and it helps balance blood sugar as well, doesn't
Absolutely,
it?
yeah.
Protein. So what's your opinion on Ayurvedic diets? I think they're good. I mean,
I watched it the other day. It was fascinating, you know.
Oh, with Mira?
Yes.
Yeah, really interesting. I mean, I think Ayurvedic diets are absolutely fantastic. I mean, the other thing is that a lot of the studies that have been done on the Mediterranean diet, haven't they?
Of course,
for IVF, which is important. So that's lots of
brightly
oily fish and
seeds,
all of that, which is.
But the Ayurvedic diet is also based on, you know, it's all about inflammation, actually, isn't it? Because in fact, we're talking a lot about inflammation, about spices and stuff to keep inflammation down, about, you know, and again, I think that's, you know, all important.
Yeah, or, you know, in modern medicine now, all routes lead to inflammation, don't
Completely.
they? Sort of anything that is endometriosis, various things like that, that as well. People have been asking me about coffee. Is decaf coffee okay?
So decaf coffee, well, two things. One is ideally naturally decaffeinated, because there are two methods of decaffeination. One uses chemicals and one doesn't. So why not put as few chemicals as one has the control over into one system? Secondly, the decaffeination process doesn't remove all the stimulants. There are two stimulants still in decaf coffee. So it is not a free reign to drink 5 bucket loads a day. I would still limit, and it still has, you know, potentially, for instance, if you suffer from heartburn and stuff, still may have the same stomach churning effects, if you like. There are certain chemicals within coffee. But can you drink 1 or 2 cups of decaf coffee if it's good quality, ideally organic? You know, I think you've got to have a life, frankly, and a lot of people use it as it's the aroma, it's the whole sort of ritual. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Especially at this time with what we're going through. I mean, I don't know about for you, Isabel, but this lockdown feels worse to me than the first time.
Well, it's because it's so dark and rainy.
I know. Okay. Somebody's asking here, anything else you'd recommend for bringing down DNA fragmentation? And just explain to viewers what fragmentation is.
So it's basically, if the DNA has a certain degree of fragmentation, it's sort of broken down. It would indicate that the sperm is poorer quality. Ideally, the fragmentation needs to be below a certain percentage, sort of 25%, I think, or there are different percentages. The treatment, by the way, for sperm DNA fragmentation is increasing antioxidant intake and reducing things like caffeine intake, for example, caffeine, alcohol, you know, sort of things like soft drinks. So the chemicals like aspartame, you know, are linked with that. Myo-inositol, as you know, Zita are aware, can improve sperm DNA fragmentation. Something called
I don't tend to use it on men. I do women, but it's great that you
all the time. You know, I really do think that, you know, the evidence is really interesting. And actually, this brings us back to the whey protein, funnily enough, because there's something called N-acetylcysteine, NAC, which is also thought to improve. It's a potent antioxidant, and it's a precursor to glutathione. And we've gone back to the whey protein, which is a source of glutathione. So again,
Yeah, and coenzyme Q10 and all of those
CoQ10,
things. Yeah.
absolutely. CoQ10 again, both for the man and the woman, but really increasing your antioxidant rich. So watercress has been found to reverse DNA fragmentation, as an example. So, you know, so lots of brightly coloured.
I never see watercress anymore
well, I live
in
in
supermarkets.
Hampshire. You find it everywhere here.
Do you?
Yeah.
Right, okay. Well, I haven't seen it for a while. Not that I've been into many supermarkets.
No. Watercress, which you can throw into soups, you can throw into smoothies. It's very peppery. And I always say to people, try and have, you know, watercress-based salad 3 times a week.
Oh, don't tell us about nettle soup again.
No, I'm not telling you about nettles. Forget nettles, don't worry. But vitamin D, again, very important for DNA.
Yes.
And folate. Always, I mean, people forget that folate is as important for the man as it is for a woman. It's really important for sperm DNA fragmentation as well. So it's, again, you know, I mean, folate rich foods, taking a good multivitamin. I mean, it's going back to that, but it's really.
But folate is better than folic acid. It's more naturally absorbed, and so many women are on high doses of folic acid because they've got gene mutations. So difficult. Anyway, what's good to lower thyroid antibodies? This is a difficult one because thyroid antibodies can have an impact on fertility and may cause miscarriage, and they need to come down. It means your body's starting to fight the thyroid. So it's a difficult one, this, isn't it? Because I think it needs medical. It needs medical intervention, really.
Always medical intervention, because you don't. I mean, look, probiotics as an example. You know, that our gut, again, we go back to the gut. The gut is the largest immune organ. So by really looking after your gut health, by, you know, increasing sort of fermented foods, by potentially taking probiotics, that kind of thing, it can, and by reducing inflammation, you know, there's all sorts of things that one can do. Increasing fiber rich foods, increasing the diversity to improve the microbiome, vitamin D.
And we're hearing so much more now about the microbiome and the role of the gut for everything. So just explain a little bit about the microbiome.
So it's basically our it's our gut flora, if you like. It is our flora and fauna. We're like a marshland, and it's our indigenous plants. And it's essentially, they are responsible for how we absorb and break down food. They're responsible for how we process certain nutrients, but they're responsible also for part of our immune system, as the gut essentially is the largest immune organ, and to feed the microbiome. And there's a lot of studies done on certain African tribes that have a very, very wide array of different plants and food sources, and it has been, you know, the evidence is the wider your variety of foods and of natural, you know, the better your microbiome. And fermented foods are very important for the microbiome. Again, we go back to the brightly coloured fruit and veg, to the fibre rich foods, to the less man-made foods, of course, but very important for the brain, and also particularly now as we're going into winter and people are going to get, you know, it's more challenging mentally. It is more challenging mentally. So by looking after your microbiome, again, probiotics and stuff, you can help your mood.
Yeah. It's interesting as well, because certainly in IVF now, there are tests we are doing to check for lactobacillus and things like that in the uterus and vagina, and it's really interesting, isn't it?
It's and the thing is that we are, you know, look, even if we don't get put on antibiotics by our GP, for instance, you know, if you are a meat eater, if you're an omnivore like most of us are, you know, you will automatically be getting antibiotics through the food chain, because even if your meat is organic, if that herd or that flock of chickens or something got an infection, you are allowed to use antibiotics even in organic. They're not routinely used, but the point is that we get them through water, through everything, and therefore they decimate our gut bacteria. So we're being bombarded from all sides. So it is actually really important to look after it. I think nowadays, more than anything, we have to take notice of that.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay. I am 35 with a low AMH. Is there anything that can realistically make a difference to egg quality? I don't eat fish. What supplement or alternative foods can I eat to support quality of my eggs? And the thing is, at 35, even with a low AMH, this lady stands a good chance of getting pregnant.
Do you know, I am so utterly convinced that you can improve egg quality, Zita. I really think, do not give up. but you know, you might have to try a bit harder. I mean, we can't change the amount of eggs you've got. That's one thing we can't do, of course, you know. But
you can choose. I mean, like over 150 days. I was talking last night with my basic egg cell about the egg being 550 times bigger than the sperm, and
yeah,
different
absolutely.
component of the eggs need different nutrients. So, you know, things like multivitamins, folate,
Absolutely.
vitamin D,
Folate,
inositol,
uh,
you know, all of that makes a difference
all of that,
alongside food.
and really, yeah, again, it's increasing rainbow colors again, of course.
Yes.
It's really important. I know that lady mentioned it earlier on, but rainbow colors don't, you know, I know we joke about it, but it really is important. Different colors will bring different nutrients to the table, if you like.
Yeah, but it's interesting, isn't it? Because like talking to Mira the other day about like Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, food in season, which we don't do anymore. I mean, to me, it still seems wrong to be having strawberries in
Oh, do you know,
November.
I
You
don't
know,
buy
it's
strawberries. And actually,
yeah.
Zita, you said
But
something earlier.
root vegetables at this time of year. I mean, like beta carotene, squash, pumpkin. You know, all of those foods are brilliant for the ovaries, aren't
Well, that's
they?
right. And you were saying earlier that we all want comfort food. We do. But as it happens, half of this comfort food, which is around now, is really great for us. You know, sweet potatoes. Okay, if you want something comforting, the sweet potato, bright orange, rich in beta carotene. Yeah, all the squashes, as you say, the green leafies. You know, all the sort of the cabbages, the red cabbages as well, and all of that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm craving that
chard.
that lovely deep green. Was it? I can never pronounce it. It's Italian. It's like a cabbage. Start it. Caballera.
Oh, Cavallonero.
Cavallonero. I can
Yeah,
never pronounce it.
absolutely.
Delicious.
So
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
really good. And to go back to that lady who's a vegetarian who doesn't eat fish, so you know, it is harder to get omega-3, that's for sure. It is harder to get omega-3, but you know, walnuts and stuff like that will have some omega-3, and
but I think you're better off taking supplements. And if you don't want to take fish, there's algae.
There's
isn't there?
algae, yes. Don't take flaxseed. I would take an algae-based one. Absolutely.
Okay. Another question here. Me and my husband are equipped. We're trying to conceive naturally. And she's talking about Eat Yourself Pregnant, my book, but she was saying that many of the recipes are with meat and dairy and gluten products. I'm lactose intolerant.
Yeah.
Celiac who prefers corn over chicken. Would almond milk and corn as substitutes still do the same work?
So almond milk is wonderful. It's rich in magnesium and calcium as almonds are. It has no protein in it, I have to tell you. It's got no protein in, but don't worry about that. You know, you don't have to have dairy anyway. It's fine as a substitute. Corn, it's a processed food. I'm not going to lie. It is a processed food. You know, you can get, I mean, I don't know whether she eats eggs. She says she's vegetarian. She doesn't say she's vegan.
No, but she's celiac.
Celiac, well, eggs are fine. So celiac is fine. You can have, as long as you're not having gluten containing grains. So, you know, you can have things like buckwheat and rice and quinoa and millet, and there's all sorts of, and corn, as in corn rather than corn, but those are fine. You know, I think, and you know, quinoa as an example is a seed. It's very rich in B vitamins. It's actually a complete protein as well. So it's got all the essential amino acids. So there are lots of different varieties of things. You do have to try a little bit harder, of course you do.
But also, I think this lady, being a celiac, needs to have her vitamin D levels checked, because women with celiac have very low levels of vitamin D. So really important that you get that done, or you take vitamin D as well. Yeah. Okay, we have two fresh IVFs and two frozen cycles. Sadly, I miscarried. I have an underactive thyroid. I'm insulin resistant and also now 39. We're about to start a frozen embryo transfer with our 2 stored embryos now that my cycles are on track following the miscarriage. Which supplements would you recommend to take? Our specialist wants us to try a natural cycle this time. Any advice? Really grateful for. This is an interesting one, isn't it? Because, you know, being 39, insulin resistant and underactive thyroid, is getting all of that right before you
have the embryo transfer. Absolutely. Sure that the thyroid is in the correct place, is under control. And you know, being insulin resistant, you know, it's following a low GL diet, so important. Inositol, myo-inositol, so really can help. Vitamin D, again, vitamin D is very important.
Vitamin D, myo-inositol, but making sure that you get the
balancing
thyroid
your
up to a
blood
good
sugar
level. Yeah.
and also
So she doesn't say what her TSH is here,
no, but getting
but
the TSH and balancing blood sugar levels, because blood sugar control is fundamental for overall hormone balance. It will have a knock-on effect on thyroid function as well.
yeah.
And so eating reasonably regularly and including protein every time you eat, so important, because protein slows down the absorption of carbohydrate, and it's a lower carb diet. It's not, I know we all want to eat carbs at this stage, but if you are insulin resistant, it is very important to have a low GI diet, very important, and a lower carb diet and high
But
fiber.
you talk about sort of like trying to balance blood sugar as well by having a small amount of protein, fat, and carb with meals. Yeah.
Yeah. No, well, yes, absolutely. So carbohydrate turns into sugar. So, and that is, even if you have a banana, it will turn into sugar. So it's but protein and fat slows down the absorption of carbohydrate into the bloodstream. It stops the spike, which in turn stops the insulin spike. So you don't get what's called these peaks and troughs, which are not great for us, but they also affect our overall hormone balance. So, it all starts with balancing your blood sugar levels. So by including some kind of protein, particularly at breakfast, a lot of people forget to include protein at breakfast, and actually protein at breakfast.
And breakfast is to me is a really important meal of the day, not to be missed. And there's a question here as well about intermittent fasting when you're trying for a baby. What do you think about that?
There's the thing with intermittent fasting, and I think it benefits a lot of people, and it's been found to benefit inflammation and diabetes and all sorts of things. I don't necessarily recommend it for an IVF cycle, because it's an unknown really. And if some people often find that people who do intermittent fast, actually sometimes they end up not eating enough and not getting enough nutrients in. If you are trying naturally, I'm not sure it's a bad thing, if I'm honest, but within your non-fasting window, balance your blood sugar levels within your 8 hours or whatever your hours is, and eat really nutrient dense foods, because you are still what you eat. Forget the insulin. If you're doing intermittent fasting and living on Pop-Tarts, it's not going to help you.
No. It's not. I had somebody that was vegan, I remember, before COVID, and nothing wrong with being vegan, by the way.
Of course not.
But all she was eating was pasta and tomato ketchup on, because she doesn't like many of the foods available. So that makes it really, really difficult.
It makes it really difficult, and people sometimes think that they're being really good by trying to embrace veganism or vegetarianism and cutting down
on low fat products,
all of which is great. But low fat products, that would be one thing I would say do not do. And particularly that woman who's insulin resistant, do not have any low fat dairy. That is not great for insulin. But yes, I think people embrace low fat products. They're not so good, are they, Zita?
No, not at all. Not at all. I like full fat everything.
Absolutely.
Okay, are there supplements that can affect medications?
Yes, there are. Generally more herbs, to be honest. And there are medications, of course, that people go on that deplete nutrients. So some medications, like antidepressants, as an example, can deplete you in certain B vitamins and magnesium and vitamin D, in fact. So it's always important to understand what medication somebody is on, so that we can look at maybe they might need a bit more of this or a bit more of that. CoQ10 actually is also very much depleted, funnily enough, by antidepressants, and a lot of people are on antidepressants at the moment.
I'm from our questionnaire, I'm always blown away by the amount of women that are on antidepressants,
and so
they really worry about this.
Sit up and notice this, because I think more than anything, not everybody likes taking supplements, but I think sometimes you've got to weigh up what you're going through, and if you are investing such a lot in an IVF cycle, financially of course, but also emotionally and physically, I think you want to pull everything out of the bag if you can.
I know, and it's interesting because I love the analogy you use with women, that this isn't like a natural cycle where you're just producing one egg. Like for IVF, you're producing, it's unnatural. You're trying to produce more, so you need to eat in a different way, and you need to sort of build up the protein to get the eggs.
Protein, and it's not just about the protein, of course, because the protein is really important, and my God, does it make a difference, I have to say. But it's also, eggs are a casing for DNA, so DNA requires vitamin D and zinc and selenium and beta carotene and B vitamins and folate and all that kind of thing. So you need to make sure you know, and I would never recommend that people go through IVF without taking at least a really good multivitamin, omega-3.
Yeah, but I think as well the follicular fluid that surrounds the egg is really rich in vitamin D and inositol, and it's not just about getting eggs; it's getting mature, healthy eggs, isn't
Absolutely.
it?
And this is where also the CoQ10 can help, because as well as acting as a potent antioxidant, it is part of the energy production process in the body. And because, as you said, an egg is the largest single cell in a female body, so you require more energy to mature one egg, let alone 15 eggs. You know, your energy production requirements are higher. So by increasing your energy production potential, that is another thing of why maybe CoQ10 helps improve the outcome in an IVF cycle.
Yeah, because I always think a woman's eggs are her most precious reserve, you know, really, really important.
Oh, and you know what? We know so little about it until we get into our 30s. Now people are talking more about it. When I was in my 20s, nobody knew about this.
Well, there's been a huge surge, hasn't there, in women freezing their eggs during COVID, you know, freezing eggs.
Yes,
yeah. Okay. Oh, right. And another thyroid question. What can I eat or take if my thyroid hormone is low?
Well, I mean, eat it. But first thing is balancing your blood sugar levels, because what you want to do, you know, we don't act in single parts. We act as a whole being.
Holistic,
holistic. So you look at hormone balance as a whole. One thing that I think a lot of people don't necessarily link is that stress, and of course, all of us stressed, and particularly women going through IVF. Stress, so the adrenal glands, which are our stress glands, if they are heightened, if they are overused, it will knock on to, it will suppress thyroid function. And I do strongly believe that a lot of the reasons we are seeing women who have a slightly suppressed thyroid function is because they're so stressed. So it's looking at that, but it's eating. So the thyroid requires zinc and selenium and iodine and vitamin C, you know. So again, it's not just one thing. It's you know, eating sort of foods as a whole. If your thyroid is quite suppressed, it might be worth reducing at least wheat, if not gluten, in the diet, because there might be a potential link. And there are certain foods that are called goitrogens, which means that they have a goitrogenic, thyroid suppressing effect within the body. So that would be things like raw broccoli and raw cabbage, and you don't want to go overboard on things like that. You know, you want to cook your cruciferous vegetables properly, but you know, I mean, one could go into it and talk for a long time about this.
Yeah.
As a very basic.
But as we're talking about that, you know, one of the things I talked about yesterday was energy, building up your energy reserves. And I noticed there was earlier a question about how do you get more energy? And I would think it's around blood sugar balance, but any other.
You know what, Zita, fundamental, it doesn't matter whether you are just living your life, whether you're at school, whether you're 85, or whether you're trying to have a baby, the most important thing you can do, in my view, is balancing your blood sugar levels, and you feel a lot better for it. It's the start of energy. It really does help your energy levels.
And also, you know, not having lots of snacks during the day, you know,
because your body has to rest, of course.
If because you're just spiking the whole time, aren't you?
And the spikes, exactly. The spikes, people sort of mistakenly go, well, I need a coffee at 11 because, you know, I'm flagging, and then I have a Diet Coke at 2. Actually, those are false, and they give you spikes, which then you know, have coffee because you love the taste, you love the aroma, maybe have it decaf, as we talked about, naturally decaffeinated. Don't have it because you need it, you know. I think that's really important. But yeah, actually, and you know, obviously moving, we talked about exercise. It's getting harder now, the days are getting darker, but actually that as well needs, you know, gives you some energy, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. And
enough liquid. People forget, you get very tired if you don't drink enough water, and a lot of people don't drink enough water. So
no, really, absolutely, you're right, especially when we're coming into a colder season. You don't think about it as much.
But actually, the radiators go on, don't we all get dry skin? You lose such a lot of water in winter. I think often you get more dehydrated in winter, even though you don't think you do, because the central heating really dehydrates you. Don't forget that.
Gosh, I couldn't go without mine. Okay, I've been told to put on weight, but I never put on weight, and all of my sisters are thin. I'm not getting pregnant, and I've been trying for 18 months, and now I'm waiting to do IVF, and the doctors keep telling me I have to put weight on. This is a difficult one. We see a lot of women like this, don't we?
I feel for you so much, because, you know, when I see women who are potentially maybe with a low BMI, who are classified as underweight, and you talk to them sometimes, and you know, actually, when your family is thin and it's a genetic sort of link, you know, etc., my view is, if you're eating the right stuff, now how the hell do we know? You know, we have to assume that people, you know, tell us the truth. You know, this lady, you know, one has to assume that you eat healthily. The most important thing is that you eat healthily. And the real difficulty, and I had a lady like this earlier on, it must have been last year, who the NHS wouldn't treat her. And actually, you know what, she was eating really well. And we did manage to put on some weight. Make sure that you're having, you know, handfuls of nuts, 2 or 3 spoons of olive oil every day. You'd be surprised how much weight that could put on, actually, bizarrely. You know, an avocado. Get good fats in. Because a lot of mistake as well that I hear, people, you know, say, oh, my GP's told me to eat lots of cream cakes and stuff. No, don't eat cream cakes. That, you know, but it's a difficult
and also
one.
get your and also she should get a thyroid checked as well, just in case there's anything going on there.
You know, there are
so the final question, Isabel, is, are there any foods I should be eating in the lead up to frozen embryo transfer?
So well, yes, I think the most important thing is it's inflammation and focusing on blood flow. Okay, so you've done the great thing.
You've got your eggs frozen, you've done all the hard work.
Done the hard work. You don't have to go overboard on protein, but we go back to balancing your blood sugar levels. Things that can really help boost blood flow. So things like beetroot juice, pomegranate juice, nettle tea. Zita's going to be so happy with me. But green leafy, beta carotene is really important for implantation. Vitamin E rich foods, so walnuts and almonds and avocados. Selenium is important for implantation. Folate, you know, magnesium, very important. So green leaf, we're back to the green leafies again, and the almonds and things like that. And steering away from pro-inflammatory foods, so not too much saturated fat. So keeping your if you're a meat eater, keeping your red meat to a minimum. Sugar is very pro-inflammatory. You know, if you are prone to bloating at all when you eat, say, a bowl of pasta, maybe gluten would be something just to mind a little bit, because
that was another question. If we can end on this, how do you know if you are gluten intolerant? Is there a test I have bad digestion?
So obviously the obvious one is the celiac test, but celiac is essentially an autoimmune disease, if you like. You can be non-celiac gluten sensitivity test available. It's quite hard to find and it's quite expensive. I think that some of it is a little bit of experimentation without cutting huge food groups out. So if you take one out, for instance, if you did take gluten out, you must replace it with with another sort of whole grain, like gluten-free oats or rice or quinoa or buckwheat or things like that. If your digestion is bad, there could be another whole host of reasons. You know, it would be worth speaking to somebody. I think sometimes it is worth trying to speak to somebody about things like this.
Yeah. No, that's great. Isabel, you've been absolutely amazing. You've answered so many questions. Thank you so much. But you're doing your consultations now by Skype?
Skype and phone, and be known to do WhatsApp video or FaceTime, but I can't see anybody because my eyes are so bad these days, so Skype is the preferred.
But if anybody wants an appointment that's listening with Isabel, if you phone the clinic, and I'll be putting it in the Insta after here anyway. But Isabel, thank you so much, and I look forward to a lovely cup of nettle tea when this is all over.
I'm gonna have a glass of wine. What's wrong with you?
Okay, thanks so much, and thank you all for watching. And this is going to go live on the IGTV channel now, and then tomorrow we have acupuncture. So any questions you want to ask, please do. And thank you all for listening this evening. Bye, Isabel.